Que lo que mi gente, welcome to the Monoplaza F1 podcast. As always, I'm your host, Emi Bertre, and with me today is one of my favorite guests, the illustrious, the ever intelligent, always hilarious, Elkyn Beltre. Welcome to the show. Welcome back. How you doing?
Doing good. Enjoying the life. Got a nice Monstera plant, and I'm ready to roll, baby.
Hey, plant life, son. I feel that.
hmm
All right. So today we are going to be talking about the Chinese Grand Prix, the Chinese Grand Prix, the Chinese GP. All right. Uh, it was a sprint weekend. It was a weekend of, if you're a Ferrari fan, of many highs and many lows, and probably no surprises in between. Your goat could never. So yeah, it was a sprint weekend, and I'm gonna start there. So did you get to watch the sprint, and what did you think about the sprint race?
Admittedly, it was at a time, unfortunately, I could not watch it, but I did allow myself, since I'm like, you know what, sprint is like what? What do we got? Like, it's like 30 minutes.
30 minutes, 19 laps. Yeah, it was
So
really
I was
short.
just like, you know what? I'm just going to run it back. And if anything, I knew it was worth watching because guess who woke up to a message saying P1. So I was like, all
P1,
right. I was
baby.
like, so I had to watch it. And when I watched the replay, because I knew Lewis got pole for the
Yeah.
sprint. I was just like, all right,
Yep.
he got pole. And the main thing I was looking at, because I know Max Verstappen was starting P2. I was just like, man, that first corner, I'm gonna be interested to see. Because I'll say this, Max is really good. Like off the that green
Mm-hmm.
light, when that light goes,
Yes.
Max is just there. So I was
Yes.
just watching Lewis, and I was just like, man, he got through it. And I think the one thing with these sprints, you don't have pit stops. You're
No.
just you're just going. So pretty much it's like if you handle your tires, if you do it well, and I think the thing that was just like kind of what everyone was. I think this is what people were expecting when Lewis moved to Ferrari, where it's like if the car is working right,
Mm-hmm.
Lewis is going to make things happen. And I think, like you mentioned at the beginning of the podcast, it was a bittersweet weekend. But on the positive side,
Yes.
when you
Yes.
got things going, I think the term is now we're cooking with oil, and that's what Lewis was doing.
Hey man, you know what? First of all, I don't blame you for not watching that live. For those who don't know, if you, like I said, so I put out that reel, right? I was like, if you live in the Western Hemisphere, you're trying to watch this live, you are not going to sleep this weekend. And that's so true. I set so many alarms. I miss, like, literally, the first. I missed the first two things of the actual GP qualifying, and the crazy thing was that, like, I was awake for it, so I was up. I saw the pre-quali show. I was like, all right, I'm good. Next thing I know, I wake up and they're already in Q3 of the actual qualifying. I was like, oh my god, what is happening? So that's how, at that point, like, I was so tired. But for the sprint race itself, like, I was pleasantly surprised, obviously, when Lewis got on pole. Obviously, I feel like F1 is kind of starved for drama, like real drama, and we'll get to that in a second because they're always trying to stir stuff up. And of course, Verstappen and Lewis, everyone was like, "Oh man, oh turn one, they're gonna run into each other." However, I actually never felt like they were going to run into each other, mostly because Max Verstappen races Lewis a little bit different than he races everybody else. So that's for starters. Two, Verstappen now versus the Verstappen that was prior to all this. He's still the same aggressive guy, but he thinks things through a little bit more. So for me, I was like, they're probably not going to run into each other because Max, the reality of the situation is, like, that car he's driving is buns. Like, he is
hmm
literally doing the most with that car, and he admittedly is saying, like, this car is actually really terrible. If Ferrari had their act together, Red Bull would actually not be P3 in the constructors, to be completely honest. But right now, Max is like sheer will in just like putting that car up there, right?
Yeah.
I will say, like, the good thing about, like, the sprint race, obviously, like, it's really short, so it did give me an opportunity to go and take a little nap in between that and qualifying. Um, the race itself, obviously, me being a Lewis Hamilton fan, it was very much I was I was riveted. All right, and there was some times where I thought, okay, surely Max is about to catch up to this dude. I think he was the closest Max got. I think was like down a little under half a second. It was like
hmm
4.487, something like that. But it turns out Lewis was just playing games. He put on a master class because once Piastri passed Max, right? On lap 15, you got Lewis dunking almost 7 seconds on Oscar. So okay, we ended. I'm on a high. I'm like, yes, let's go. We're gonna go into
Hmm.
qualifying. No one can hurt me. Lewis Hamilton,
Mm.
and actually, before I even move on to that, the question that I want to ask, and I asked this online, and I'm asking to you: do sprints count?
As far as just like wins or just like being hyped
I
for,
mean,
like, should we be hyped for a sprint win?
that's what I'm saying. Yeah, because some people are like, no, sprints don't count, and people were saying that
Ah.
like when Oscar Piastri got a sprint win
Mm.
before Lando Norris got an actual GP win, a lot of people, like particularly Lando Norris fans, were like, no, that's not real.
I
They
think like
don't count. But I'm like, they give points for it,
I
so why
know
doesn't
that's
it
my
count?
thing with it. Like they get points, but at the same time, it's like it takes away that. I think it takes away that big element of pit stops and the
Mm-hmm.
longevity of a race.
Mm-hmm.
I think
Mm-hmm.
that's the biggest thing. But almost it's like with a sprint, you can kind of see like you're just going like putting it all out for however many. I think in this case, 19 laps.
Mm-hmm.
You're pretty much
Mm-hmm.
seeing like, hey, going all out. We got these 19 laps. I think that's what makes it fun. And you're right, you do get points for it. Now, but does it count as Lewis's win total? I don't think it does, right?
No, I mean they still have him at 105.
No.
But that's what I'm saying. And so like I got hype, and so like the reason I'm asking is because like I'm counting it as a win for obvious reasons. I've always counted it as a win, but like I also am on record and I'm continuing this. This is probably the only sprint that I actually like, but I actually hate sprint races. Nothing has changed. Nothing has changed for me
Yeah.
about sprint races.
And I think most of the drivers, we always hear the drivers talking about it, and they're like, oh, it's just a money grab. Even
Yeah.
though it was crazy when I heard Max said that, I was like, Max, you're literally the king of sprints. He has 11 sprint wins. Like, he is. That's the
Well, no,
thing.
does he have 11? Does he have 12? It doesn't matter. Anyways,
Doesn't matter. He's in first.
and so whatever, because I'm
Hmm.
assuming enough people counted it as a win because now we're saying, Lewis
Absolutely.
Hamilton in only his second race, he got a first win with Ferrari. And I'm like, he still crossed the finish line. They still had a race. They still get points. That's what I'm saying. Like, either sprints count or they don't. I hate them, but I'm counting it. Whatever. Take it to the bank. So I guess, did you, like me, feel confident going into qualifying? Yes, I did fall asleep for the first two rounds inadvertently. All right, not on purpose. Again, it was like, what was it? It was like 2 a.m. for me. That would have been like 3 a.m. for you qualifying.
Hey,
It
but
was
what matters is that,
wild.
hey, you caught the important one, Q3.
Yeah,
That's the
yeah,
one you
yeah.
needed.
Well, I mean, I caught one important thing. I caught Alex Albon
Oh.
out qualifying Carlos Sainz. I'm gonna get to that in a second. So I went into GP qualifying, assuming that Lewis was gonna be able to put that thing on pole, probably put that front row, regardless. Um, I'm gonna say that P5 qualifying was not a terrible
Hmm.
result. Again, I'm used to the last 3 years at Mercedes, where it's like, just to give you an example, last year, Lewis Hamilton qualified P2 for the sprint. Right, when they went to GP qualifying, he was knocked out in Q1 and started the race P18. So
Oh my gosh. I think I
uh,
remember that. I think.
I was like, hey, what did the war criminal George Bush used to say? Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice,
Well, you're not
can't
gonna
get
fool me
fooled
again.
again.
And like that's the thing. Like, and here's my thing. I'll tell you this. I think I was a little bit suspicious. I was like, when I saw that P5, because I didn't stay up, but I was just like, let me look at the times through each Q1, Q2, Q3. I was just like, all
Mm-hmm.
right. And then I was just like, something happened. I was like, something happened. But at the same time, I was just like, a podium is not out of the question. That's what I looked at it because
I felt the same way.
I was like, we're gonna get to this race, podium's not out of the question. But little did we know. Hey, I want to say this though. We got to give props though. I mean, because once again, McLaren kind of just like I felt like McLaren kind of cleaned up its
Mm-hmm.
its act going into
Mm-hmm.
this qualifying for the
Mm-hmm.
GP. And Oscar, I mean, he did his thing. Like Oscar,
Absolutely.
like his first race, it is what it is.
Sure.
But he's not going to be easy for
Oh no.
McLaren to deal with this season. I already know.
Absolutely not. The only I feel like, so I was happy to see Oscar get the pole. By the way, he now has the course record.
Yep, by three was
That
like
so
three
that record
seconds.
that record lasted like a day, right? Because like from
Well,
2004 to 2025, Michael Schumacher had the lap record
Hmm.
at the Shanghai International Circuit. Lewis Hamilton gets pole for the sprint on was it Saturday?
Yep.
And then literally the next day, or actually when he got the sprint
It was
pole, Lewis
Friday.
broke. Yeah, yeah. No, no, no. It
Uh,
was Friday for us, but it was
yeah.
Saturday already in China. So
Oh yeah.
when
True.
Lewis
True. True.
qualified for P1, he broke the lap record that hadn't been broken in 21 years. And then literally the next day, Oscar broke the record. So whatever.
Oh.
Yeah. So you're right. I do feel like McLaren has their work cut out for him because what I'm realizing is that if Oscar puts it on pole, I'm putting this out there saying that it's actually going to be hard for Lando to pass Oscar on track. And for me, it's not because Lando is not as fast as Oscar. I just don't know if he's as measured as Oscar. And I think from this
Man,
year,
that's a
I
good
mean, we're
point.
2 races in. Oscar had a little desperation in the rain in Australia, so we'll see what happens. Um, Obviously, in the next couple races, but Oscar did qualify higher than Lando in the sprint. He got pole and now Lando started the race P6. So yeah, to your point, I think McLaren's gonna have a hard time. Like if Oscar continues doing what he's doing, I
Yeah.
don't think it's going to be a difficult choice for McLaren, right? Like they still want McLaren to win, but if Oscar keeps putting these wins over Lando, I'm sorry. Like,
They're gonna go with that. And I think
yeah,
that's the one thing, like, you know how there's a few guys that we trust, like if they're in first, like they're probably gonna hold on to that lead,
yes,
barring some random thing, some malfunction.
yes,
And like as long as his strategy is sound while he's in the lead, like I think it's gonna be really hard to pass him, especially with the machine that McLaren has put out.
hmm
Like there's nothing within these two races that make me think McLaren doesn't have the best vehicle right now on the grid.
I mean, they absolutely do. They're just
Yeah.
continuing. How many consecutive? Going back to Abu Dhabi last year, that makes 3 consecutive races that
Yep.
McLaren has won. A McLaren driver, 2 Lando, 1 Oscar. So
Yeah.
yeah, you're absolutely right. I think the strategy is going to be more buttoned up. What was interesting to say is that like I don't know if rightfully so. People like to bring this up. Lando Norris did say Saturday, the reason he qualified for the sprint so terrible was because the car was difficult to
I heard him say
handle.
that. Yeah, I heard him.
And so obviously people are giving him slack because of all the stuff he said in the past. If you have the
Hmm.
fastest car, you should be winning. Blah 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 blah. No lob loss on my end. I'm not gonna like excuse it. I'll say he was a kid, and kids say cocky stuff. So do with that what you will. Whatever. I will say for GP qualifying, the not I don't know. Would you call it a surprise? George Russell P2
For qualifying, no,
just
I
for
said
qualifying.
no. Honestly, like I'll say this one thing about George, he's a good qualifier. Like you
Sure.
and I, like have seen that since keeping
Yep.
up with Mercedes.
Yep.
That's his thing. Qualifying. Now, was I surprised that he dropped down to P3? Absolutely not. Was was I completely confident that he was probably going to keep that P3? Absolutely. Here's the thing about George. You know how he spoke about Oscar being great at the front? George, I'm a little nervous up the front, but give me George at like third. I trust that brother right there. It's death, taxes, and George Russell, third place podium. Bam.
No one's passing George Russell on P3. He's got it locked
No,
down. There'll be a
yeah.
27
Hey,
second gap between him and second place, but nobody's
yeah.
going to pass him for P3.
There's only been one time we've seen it, and that was Singapore in 2023. With
Hey,
unfortunately
self inflicted.
he bend it there, but like, and that's the thing. Like, as much as like we give George Russell crap, like
Sure.
he has been consistently like qualifying high. Like I wouldn't be surprised if he ended up in the top five for drivers
Oh,
like this year. Like,
I, I'm at the rate he's going to finish top 3, honestly.
yeah,
Or
like
or it's
he's.
going to be like a Kimi Räikkönen situation. The McLaren's fighting.
Mhm.
George Russell wins the drivers'
Yeah,
championship
and
by
like,
1.
the thing is, like, it's one of those things where I kind of like see it where we see like Ferrari how they struggled in that race, whereas Mercedes kind of has more of their stuff figured out. Which, like,
Mm,
I know some people are like, "Oh, Lewis should have never left," blah blah. But I
he
clearly
absolutely should
remember,
have.
beginning of last season, people were, or like at some point, people were like, "Oh, Lewis is going to regret making like leaving Mercedes," blah blah blah. But I'm just like, it's just the way like things happen, and
Uh,
like it's a long season. What we got 20 races left, right? What do we got?
we got 22 left. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
22, yeah. So it's a long season. I think you've talked to me about this. So, but at the same time, I can't hate on Mercedes for what they're
Sure.
doing. I mean, like they figured out their stuff and they're going to be consistently up there to probably fight for a podium at
So,
least.
So what I will say is this. All right. Obviously, last year I was cheering hard for Mercedes for
Mm-hmm.
obvious reasons. Lewis Hamilton was on the team. What I will say today is that I am still following very closely the career of Kimi Antonelli, and in that respect, I still follow Mercedes. Right. So when Lewis retires, if Kimi's still on that team, sure, I'm probably switching back to Mercedes. You do with that and say whatever you want. Fake fan, fair weather, whatever. But I think for me, officially, I knew I was gonna dip from Mercedes fandom, or at least put a little pin in that, put a pause in that. Uh, it was probably October 2023, and I'm taking it way back. See, this is what I'm talking about, like these tangents, right? It was Qatar. All right, so in Qatar, Lewis and George are starting next to each other. Race starts, they run into each other. They had talked strategy, right? They put Lewis on the soft tires, and George, I think, I can't remember if it was like the mediums or the hard, but the whole point of putting Lewis on the soft tires was so that he could get ahead of George and go for it and try to go for the cars out front.
Mm-hmm.
No, George Russell didn't want to let that happen. He clipped Lewis. Lewis is off into the gravel, and that was it. That's not what caused me to be done. I mean, it should have been, but what caused me to be done was the fact that Mercedes put out this bogus ass apology video afterwards where like George is looking out in a balcony,
I remember
then
this.
Lewis comes up, they like dap each
Dap
other
up.
up. And listen, I'm gonna say this for those who are not familiar with this. I can only say this to my brother because he understands what I'm about to say next. That was like when mom used to make us apologize to each other after we got into a fight. We didn't really mean that crap. We just had to do it. We had to do it because mom was on our ass, right? And so like that, like for me, I was like, I
Here's my
can't
thing.
believe they made Lewis Hamilton put a whack ass apology. And so that's when I was like, all right, I'm done.
And they recorded it. Ain't no way. If it's a sincere apology, I ain't doing it in front of the cameras. I don't need to.
Yeah, you got to do that behind the scenes. And so that's what like kind of threw me off. And like, sure, was I salty about people constantly questioning Lewis Hamilton's credentials? Yes,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely. Do I think Lewis Hamilton is immortal? No. Like, there's a sensical part of me that says yes. Eventually, even the mighty, the greatest of all time, Lewis Hamilton is going to have to retire. I don't know when that is. I'm not really looking forward to that day, right? And so for me, it was a fact that like they would hype up the smallest accomplishments of George
Mm-hmm.
and then just like not do anything whenever Lewis was, got his 200th podium, when Lewis like all of this stuff. And so like for me, I was like, okay, do that. And like again, like the final like nail in the coffin was when George Russell self-inflicted wound. He hit the wall in Singapore, and none of the team was there for Lewis. He's
I
like, "Hey,
remember
look,
that.
yeah." So, all right, hey, blah, blah, tangent over.
All
Back
right.
to the Chinese Grand Prix. So George Russell qualifies P2. I wasn't surprised, like you said. I was also not surprised that he fell back to P3 because behind George was Lando, who did qualify P3, so that was great. More surprising, and I don't know why I keep being surprised, was Max Verstappen in P4. That car, it
Mm.
truly is not a good
It's not.
car.
Like, I legit, I'm going to tell you this, because you know how you're talking about the two McLarens fighting for it? I know we're just two races in. I think, is Max second or third in the standings?
He's third. No,
I think he
no, no,
might,
no.
because I
He's
know
fourth. He's fourth. He's fourth. He's fourth.
in the, not the GP standings, but the overall point
Yeah, yeah.
standing.
The overall
Yeah,
standings.
okay.
Hey, yeah, yeah,
Like,
yeah.
I
Because
wouldn't be,
yeah, it's
it's Lando first,
no. I'm lying. I think Max is P2.
and I thought Max was
Yeah, yeah.
second.
It's Lando, Max, George,
Like,
Oscar.
one of my favorite memes that I saw is
Oh, jeez.
Max might be the first guy to win the championship without winning a race.
Oh
And I'm
Lord.
like, you know what? If something happens and these guys just like inconsistently or crash out, get these red, but the Max is just like, hey, Max just starts getting second place. I'm gonna be like, holy garbanzo beans, what are we doing out here? But
What is holding
Max,
up this
but
guy?
I mean, but right now, Max is Red Bull. I think he has all their points, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like in the
Yes, yes, because Liam is DNF in the first race
hmm
and out of the points in the second race. And also, point of clarification: the drivers' championship order right now is Lando up top 44, Max
Hmm.
behind him at 36, George Russell behind Max at 35, and Oscar Piastri at 34. You'll never guess who P5 is.
Is it Albon?
Negative. Close. It's Kimi Antonelli.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, that's devastating.
Probably
Hey,
because like,
shouts out Andrea though, right?
how
That's
much
what's
does he
up.
have? How much does he have?
So Kimi's got 22 points. He's
Yeah,
behind Oscar. Oscar's got 34. George has 35. Max has 36.
yeah.
I fully expect Oscar or George to leapfrog, or to jump Max in the next race, and probably Oscar to leapfrog both of them. And then all the way at the bottom, the 9 and 10. 9 is Lewis Hamilton with 9 points. Mercy. And Charles Leclerc with 8 points. My lord.
Yeah, so those guys need to string some wins together.
Hey, the greatest Canadian driver to ever do it, Lance Stroll, is sitting P8 right now. Oh my goodness.
Man, who's
All
seven
right,
right now?
and
Go
yeah,
ahead.
no, he's P8 right now.
Man, but that like you were talking about that, like the standings, like Max is pretty much Red Bull, and like has there been anything like we know like we're gonna praise Max, but has there
Sure.
been anything for you that you see on coming from Liam that you're like, hey, maybe we should give this guy more of a fair shake. Maybe we're quick to
So
judge him.
So the thing about Liam for me is that so I'm gonna repeat a bunch of talking points that everybody's gonna say, like, and I'm maybe gonna do it a little bit, I don't know, hopefully different. Like for me with Liam, for starters, like I always have to remember that these are like by and large kids, right?
Hmm.
Liam is a child, like early 20s, like he's barely out of like his teenage years, right? What didn't ingratiate Liam with the people, right, was it wasn't his cockiness, it was how he comported himself on the track, right? So his first race with Visa Cash App 2 for 1 was Coda, right? So you remember last year was like really weird because Singapore was like Daniel Ricciardo's last race. Is it? Is it not? He didn't really
Yeah,
get a right. Next race in Coda, it was they had already made the announcement. We'd had like a whole month off, which
I
was
remember that.
like
Yeah.
so weird. And then it's like, oh, Liam Lawson. Liam Lawson tangles with Fernando Alonso at Coda. And he is very unapologetic to it. He's
Hmm.
just like being, and it's crazy to be a McAsshole to Fernando Alonso, who is like the king of like backhanded compliment, like always talking out the side of his. I'm serious. That guy's always talking out the side of his mouth. All right. Um, and so for me, that was like, is that really how you want to be like coming out here, like talking shisty to Alonso? All right, but that's fine because like I'm not a huge Alonso fan. I admit Fernando Alonso is a great driver, has all these. He's a great driver. All right, whatever. Then the race after Coda was Mexico. So Mexico was Checo's home race,
Mm.
and in that race, at that point, the rumors were strong that he was going to be replacing Checo, which frankly, I love El Viejo Sabroso, right? But the issue with me is that Checo hadn't consistently been performing with Red Bull. And so there's a point I'm going to make with Checo right now, right? So Liam in that race flips Checo off again. And so like now Red Bull's having to talk to Liam. It's like, hey, dog, you got a little too much dip on your chip. You gotta pull it back, big dog, right? So on top of Liam looking like a diehard villain, I'm glad he got a haircut because at the time he 100% looked like Han Gruber's son. All right, did not help. So Liam obviously like real cocky. Um, got that Red Bull seat. It didn't help that everybody was like, "Yo, but what about Yuki? How come Yuki doesn't get a shot? And how come Liam is saying all this stuff and he's being all this aggressive and you're praising him for it, but you're not doing the same with Yuki? Yada yada yada. This that and the third, right?" So now I'm seeing Liam Lawson and I'm having to separate everything that Liam Lawson did last year and leading up to this year and all my feelings about, oh, it should be Yuki, it should be whatever, and separating that from how he is performing in that car. The reason I keep saying that RB21 is a crappy car is because Max is struggling with that car, right?
Mhm.
Max's talent, and I gotta say it is so great that he's putting a very terrible car in a position where it should not be. I'm sorry, you can like hate Max Verstappen and he's got a bunch of flaws. You can all it, but the fact that that car is where it is at today is not because that car is good. It's because of
Mm-mm.
Verstappen. I hate to say it, but it's like the truth. So where that brings me with bringing up Checo from last year is that last year when Checo was saying the car is like there's and everybody was like, oh, the car set up for Max, the car set up for Max. Looking at it this year, how the turntables, because you look at Liam and what's Liam doing? he's terrible, and now he might not even be in that car for the next race, right?
Yeah, and that's the way it is. I mean, Toto Wolff called it out. He was just. I remember that whole meeting while those team principals, and he called them out, and I was just like, it was like that Shannon Sharp, like you see, and like that's Toto Wolff right now. Toto Wolff right now is feeling like
The,
Shannon Sharp. He's not even saying anything. He's like,
yo, yo, what's that? What's that Shannon Sharp?
yep, that's
Skip,
total.
skip.
That's Toto Wolff. I'm telling you, he called it. He knew.
Nah, it's so. I guess like, does any part of you feel bad for Liam Lawson? I mean, I know it's a cutthroat sport, right? It's not a finishing school, but does any part of you feel bad for Liam?
I think like the only part of me is like that he hasn't been able to string anything really positive
No,
together.
not at
Like
all.
it's just he's just looked. It just looks like he's scared to do anything. Like that's what it looks like. Is he's scared to mess up, which leads him to messing up. That's
I
what's happening.
So I would actually turn that and say I don't think that he's scared that he's gonna mess up. I think he's scared because the car is not balanced. So if you go back
Hmm.
and listen to his radio message from the end of the Chinese Grand Prix, he's like, I had one lap where the car was balanced, and then everything else, like he's basically fighting with the car the entire time. And like same as Max. Max was fighting with that car the entire time, but he is Max, and sure maybe they set up the car to lean more towards him,
Hmm.
but I think even all the setups that they did, like it still wasn't like enough, right? Um, and truly, I feel bad because now the rumor is it's not his performance is so bad, right? That people were like, "Oh, he's gone," right? Like you remember, like Salo Gigante Shakari fue,
Yep.
right?
Everyone's thinking
Um,
like it's over.
it's already done, and it's a long season, but we're gonna call it because we're gonna say it's if a sprint is a race, then Liam is 3 races in, and he has yet to score a point this season
Hmm.
for Red Bull, right? So he's basically started off where Checo left off, and so if we both agree that it's actually the car that's bad and it's not adaptable to any driver that's not Max Verstappen, okay, sure. But now the rumor is that Liam Lawson not only is going to be gone in time for the Japanese Grand Prix, so they're going to promote Yuki and put Yuki in that Red Bull seat. And so originally I was like, okay, so they're gonna demote Liam and send him back to Red Bull or Visa Cash App 2-for-1, right? No, now the rumor is that they're gonna get Franco Colapinto from Alpine and put
Man,
him in that seat. And Liam Lawson is going to be out of F1. And that to
that'll
me
be
is
something.
cold
It's a
world.
cold world out here.
My
But honestly,
God.
if Colapinto takes that seat, I'm not too confident in that. Like for me, like the one person who I would trust, but I don't want him is Yuki. Like that's the
Sure.
one who I want, but I honestly don't want that for him.
No, I don't want Yuki to take the Red Bull seat.
Hmm.
But again, the rumor would be Colapinto is replacing Yuki and Yuki is replacing Liam. But I don't
Yeah.
think Yuki has a choice, right? Like I think if Yuki is called up by Red Bull, and I actually hadn't even thought about that until it was like it's like another podcast that I listened to, and like the co-host there was saying is like if they call Yuki up, I don't think like he's in a contract here. I don't think he's
He's
in a
not going to say
position to be like no. And
no.
he's been saying this whole time like I'm
Hmm.
ready, put me in, coach. Like all right, big dog. But right now the Racing Bulls car I think is handling itself a lot better than the RB21.
And I think Max even said that. Max mentioned that reasonable. And then,
Yeah.
but then the thing is, like, if you're Red Bull, where does it stop? Let's just say you take out Liam Lawson, you put in Yuki, you put in
Mm-hmm.
Colapinto, but then that doesn't
Mm-hmm.
work, and you still have that second car struggling. Are you just going to keep changing people every 3 races, or
Yes. Oh, I don't know. I don't. I
I don't
mean,
know what you're
yes.
going to do?
Bring back, bring back. I mean, it's interesting. It's not a team that I follow super closely because, like, I don't care for Christian Horner. I definitely don't care for Dr. Marco, who they keep making excuses for his racism. But like, hey, call a spade a spade. My man is
Hmm.
racist.
Absolutely.
So I I don't know. I want to feel bad for Liam. I think where I do feel bad for Liam is like everybody's like quick to jump on him,
Hmm.
like get him out of here. He sucks. He's buns. Blah 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 blah. But like, I always got to remember like I'm not driving a car like that. I can't go that fast. Clearly, he had the skill and talent and the times to get him promoted to that seat. Red Bull saw something in him that like we clearly didn't. And from so like the human aspect of it, right? Like the human aspect, no one deserves like that kind of abuse unless you're racist. Then I don't really care at that point, or just
Yep.
like a terrible human being. Then
Hmm.
like you reap what you sow, right? So I guess the final question for me is like, do you feel like Lawson will be in that Red Bull seat? Not even just out of F1. Do you feel like he's going to be in the Red Bull seat for the start of the next race
I think
in
he will be.
Japan.
I think they're
Fair,
gonna just like try to look at things and be like,
rational.
kind of listen to it. If they're, I hope they're rational and not just completely. And like, because if it's constantly your second driver having the same issues, like they really have to say like maybe changing someone out is not going to magically fix this.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, also too, I think the field is not as easy. Even if they
Nope.
get that car ready, I don't think it's going to be so easy to move up there because, as we know, once Ferrari hopefully gets their crap together, they're going to be up there fighting for stuff. And then we see that like obviously and McLaren, and then one half of Red Bull doing their thing, and some
Mm-hmm.
of these other like, I feel like these other like mid car teams,
Yes.
they take turns of who's going to have a good race, and you don't know.
I mean, I think so. To your point, one of the things that is different about this year is that this is the final year regulations, and what you're seeing. And by the way, this was something that like my friend Didier messaged me about, and he's right. It's a good reminder. So Didier was saying like this year is going to be crazy because look how close the field is. Like if you look at the qualifying times, right? Like uh, not a lot separates everybody, right? And you have teams like Williams, who shouts out James Vowles, is up there at the top. They're consistently getting into Q3. Alex Albon, right? Shouts out to Alex Albon, by the way. And so to your point, like even if they get Yuki in that Red Bull, and Yuki
Hmm.
says like, "Yes, I'm fast enough," is it going to be enough for him? I don't know. I guess the follow up question to that is how long is Red Bull going to wait? So if it's not next race, how many races does he have before he's out? Because frankly, I thought that Jack Doohan was going to be out before Liam Lawson, and right now it's a race to the bottom.
Yeah,
So, uh, and I guess finally, like, do you feel like if Yuki had the option, do you feel like he should take that seat?
I think with his personality, I almost feel like he should show that he can do. I think he wants to show he can do better than whoever's in that current seat,
Fair,
because I mean, at the end of the day, like that's the primary seat. That's a better seat than the seat he has technically. Like,
fair, yeah.
but it's a more, well, I don't want to say better, but it's a more public or more notable seat than what he has. And if they want to see like if he can handle the pressure, absolutely. As long as, but for me, as long as the team puts it in a spot to succeed, because I don't want them to just switch out and then they give him the same type of car that has the same issues.
That's fair. I think it's a gamble for Yuki. So he
Hmm.
has an opportunity to showcase his skill and showcase whether or not he's ready for a big team. So if he gets promoted and he does well in Red Bull, then Red Bull at that point can decide, no, actually, we do want to keep Yuki for next year, which would be weird because they are not going to have Honda engines next year. Or Yuki does so well that other teams are like, well, no, we want to sign Yuki Tsunoda, right? Which would be awesome for Yuki. Or
Hmm.
he does so terrible that it's like, yeah, he was good on a junior team, but he's not good at any. So I don't know. We'll see. All right. So finally,
Well, we had to talk about it.
no, I got to put a time box on this because I can't talk forever about Ferrari, right?
Hmm.
That's who we need to talk about right now. Ferrari. Let me just say, from the bottom of my heart, I have bought Ferrari merch. Yes, I have the oversized Lewis Hamilton style Ferrari shirt. Feels really great. Fits really comfortably. I should have gotten the oversized Mercedes shirt while he was still there because I just don't got the. I got the.
Hmm.
I'm just a big dude, and these larges aren't fitting like they used to anymore. Anyways, so I will say this from the bottom of my heart. I am a Lewis Hamilton fan first, and a Ferrari fan third.
It's fair.
Right? I fully respect the Tifosi and the long history of that team, right? So if you are a faithful Ferrari fan, meaning like you've been there since Juan Manuel Fangio, you've been through all the drivers, and when the drivers leave, you're still a Ferrari fan. Like you've been there through Alonso, through Raikkonen, through
Hmm.
Seb, through Sainz, Leclerc, and even Hamilton. And when they're all gone, you're still going to be shouts out to you. All right. And it is those fans, those Tifosi, that this year I'm just calling them Bane. All right. You remember the Dark Knight? I mentioned this in my last
Absolutely.
episode, and I keep
Yeah,
saying
I
it.
listened to it. Yeah, Dark Knight is Dark Knight Rises, the second one, and Batman tries using the darkness against Bane. And what does Bane say?
I don't even, it's like I was raised in the darkness. I
Hmm.
did not know the light. And when I encounter, hey, I'm blowing whatever. In addition, when I go to editing, I might just actually add that clip in there, right? And so that's what I feel like, right? Last year, I was clowning Ferrari. I was like, these guys can't get strategy. What are they doing? It's a clown show over there. And Ferrari still managed to finish P2 in the constructors. I was like, okay, yeah. Forever came in, he brought some order on that team, right? What I'm
Mm.
going through right now is someone who has to cheer for Ferrari because the driver I cheer for is on that team. That's what I'm saying. Like, ultimate respect for Tifosi, who went through and continue to go through the highs and lows and lows and
Yep.
lows and lows, right? I'm looking at the true Tifosi. I'm like, oh man, this is terrible, guys. And they're just kind of like,
This is it. This is what life. Welcome to Ferrari.
welcome
It's
to
like
Ferrari.
it's like hey man, it's like that it's like that James Franco meme when they're about to get hung and he's like first time.
First time.
That's literally like that's how they're looking at you. And like that's one of my things. I'm just like we look at it and I remember you and I would talk about it, be like, what was that strategy? What is going on?
Terrible.
And then like both of these races, it's been bad strategy. First race, Australian GP,
Mm-hmm.
you called it out. I remember I'm listening to your pod. You're like, what is that strategy? Everyone's going to Inters. They clearly have the weather app. Well, apparently Ferrari didn't have the weather app. Everyone else did. And like you can hear Lewis on the radio. It's like, guys, what's happening? Are we going? Maybe we should switch to Inters. Hello. And then like with this race, and like maybe you can explain this better than me as far as what happened from there as far as strategy from sprint to the GP or qualifying in GP, whereas the car looked great and then it didn't look so great.
Yeah. So that one's pretty easy. And before I do that, let me take a sip of my Dole pineapple juice. Shouts out Dole for sponsoring the. No, they're not really sponsoring this episode. I gotta stop doing that. Hey, but
Yeah,
Dole, if you want to sponsor me for real, hey, let me product placement right there. Okay,
man, you better get yourself some sugary
something.
Malta, some Malta Goya here.
No, next episode is gonna be Cafe Santo Domingo
There
one
we
time.
go. There we go.
No, okay, so sprint race offers an opportunity for all the teams to kind of figure out setups
Hmm.
because remember, like it used to be like once you qualify for sprint, you could not change the car at all,
Yeah.
and the order of your sprint meant that's how you were going to start the actual
Hmm.
GP. They changed the rules to say, yeah, okay. After that, you can change the car after the sprint, and then we do qualifying, and then that's
Hmm.
the true order. Okay, cool, awesome. The reason Ferrari changed the car was because over the course of 19 laps, there was graining in that front left tire.
Hmm.
And they're like, okay, it was fine when it was only 19 laps, but over the course of 56 laps, we want to make sure that this is not going to be an issue, right?
Yeah.
So they tweaked it. They tweaked it wrong. It was terrible. That's what happened with their setup. Lewis Hamilton himself said, "Hey, this car is not the same car that I drove yesterday. It was not as good as it was
Hmm.
yesterday." Me being used to what happened last year, every time like Lewis had a good car, then they would tweak with the setup, and it was terrible the next day. I was like, "Okay, this man's got to stop touching his car, seriously." But hey, that's it. That feedback helped Charles Leclerc because Charles was struggling with the car. He was out qualified by Lewis, so the qualifying head to head right now stands at 1-1. Again, I love Lewis Hamilton. I love Lewis Hamilton. I'm not expecting Lewis to out qualify Charles this year. I
Absolutely
also
not.
I also don't care. They don't give points for qualifying. I
As
don't
you
care.
have mentioned it plenty of times.
Lewis Hamilton has 100 plus poles. All right, that's the most in F1. I don't care. Okay, like he has nothing to prove to
But,
me on poles,
but
right?
like, go ahead. You go finish first.
No, and so like what I was gonna say, so they changed that setup, and of course, like it resulted in a car that was not as quick as it was in the sprint, at least for Lewis, right? And it's evidenced by the fact that Charles lost one of his front wings and was somehow faster than Lewis, who had an entire car that was intact. Which, by the way, I'm not trying to start a civil war. I'm not trying to do anything, but it is interesting that it is two races now that like they truly race each other. Charles does something that he like prevents Lewis from advancing at the start of the race. So it happened in Australia. Lewis got a good jump off the line, but he didn't want to run into Charles, and so that prevented him from advancing. He was stuck behind Albon most of the race. In this race, Lewis was he had a great start, was in fourth, and he was taking the apex, which was his right to do so.
Hmm.
Charles cuts in and clips him, right? And so I don't know. Anyways, what were you gonna say?
No, I mean, kind of like just talking about that and with their setups and everything. And at the end, and apparently their strategy just got compounded with, hey, let's give these guys two cars that are technically illegal to be on the track. And I mean, we know that Gasly joined them and being,
Gasly.
yeah, he joined them. But like you have one guy hit their car, I believe his Charles' car was underweight, right?
Yes, 1 by 1 kilogram. That's
One,
2 point something pounds.
yeah,
Uh,
about
yeah.
2.2 pounds.
Oh,
And
my
then,
bad. Yes.
hey, no, you're right, you're close. And then our boy Lewis, I believe it was was it the underside? What was it? That the underside was off a few millimeters. Like
Yeah.
he,
So I'm gonna use the same example that they used on Sky Sports F1
oh
to
man,
highlight the ridiculousness of this, right? And shouts out to them for like doing whatever. Do you see how thin this
hmm
card is? That's by how little like that the plank wear was off. By this is how much we're talking about.
you know what? I wouldn't be surprised if someone from some random we found out another driver from the other team was like, hey, go ahead and check that part on Lewis's car. I don't know. I got bad feeling. Which, because you told me, you have said it. You said it. Those guys are narcs. They
Yeah, they're all
have,
feds, a bunch of federales. Yeah, are you
yeah,
kidding
like,
me? The start of the race, like, what was it? Max Verstappen. Charles lost his wing. That's not for his team. That's for the race director to be like, hey, you got to pit Leclerc and fix that front wing, right? And then like Gasly, Alonso's brakes are on fire. I'm like, just let him be on fire, dog. I don't know what to tell
hey
you.
man, if he's going down with the ship,
Hey,
he's going down with the ship, brother.
yeah, yeah. No, yeah, they're off. I think what was wild to me about Ferrari's strategy, and it's a couple things. Like as we get into it, one, all of the top teams did a one-stop race. All right,
hmm
and those top teams got the information about, hey, how long can this hard tire compound last from Lance Stroll? Lance Stroll pits, Lance Stroll changes, and they're like, the data says that we can make it the rest of the race on this tire.
hmm
Hmm. Not Ferrari though. Ferrari was like, yeah, nah, no. Bring him in. Let's pit. Take him out of dirty air. Whatever they thought. And I was like,
Yeah, because they gave Lewis,
what are
then
we
they gave Lewis
doing,
two
dog?
stops, and they gave Charles one stop.
Yeah, but in the end, like it didn't matter, right? Because Charles
Yeah,
was underweight and Lewis
yeah.
was like the plank was whatever. Now, what I will say is
hmm
like the the drama really that ensued, aside from the strategy, the drama that really ensued with Ferrari was the perception that the Formula One media was
Oh my gosh.
presenting Lewis as a prima donna, and that's always been the case with Lewis, right? Like they try to paint him as this arrogant, blah 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 blah, but they somehow managed to not do that with other drivers, right? So during the race, and actually, I'm gonna pull this up, right? On lap 18, Lewis says, "Hey, I think I'm gonna let Charles go because I'm struggling." His race engineer is like, "Yes, understood." Okay, and so like the rest of it is like, okay, when do you want to swap? When do you want to swap? And Lewis is like, hey, I'll let you know when we're gonna swap, right? F1, the international broadcast, and even the broadcast that like I was watching on F1 TV just made it seem like Lewis had received team orders to swap with
Mm.
Charles, and he was not doing it. But that was not the case at all. And honestly, shouts out Fred Vasseur. So I'm gonna read like the full quote, and this is why I'm happy that Lewis is on this team now, which I'll get into that in a second. But like Frevasaur calls him out because they literally just asked him a question. It's like, hey, so we got a bit of drama with your drivers and Lewis not wanting to switch. And Fred's like, first of all, I think this is a joke from FOM because the first call came from Lewis. He was saying, Lewis asked us to swap, but to make the show, to create the mess around the situation, they only broadcast the second part of the question. And so Fred called them out so bad. If you go on YouTube right now, there's a 15-minute video discussing the radio, giving the full picture. But that's how you remember early on in the recording, I was like, hey, they want drama so bad that they're putting Lewis versus Max, right? And so like they created some unnecessary drama to make Lewis seem like he was some kind of like prima donna, and that was not
Did you,
the
by the way,
case.
did you read? The fans right now are laughing at F1 because F1 they responded, right? And F1 was like, there was absolutely no intention of presenting a misleading narrative regarding the Ferrari team radio. Due to other situations developing during the race, a message from Lewis was not played, but that was not intentional. And I was just like, Really?
Leave us alone, guys. All right,
I was
it was
like,
an
really?
accident.
And like I was like, no wonder Fred Vasseur was mad at. And like Lewis,
Hey,
like I think Lewis at this point, like, cause you told me straight up, like the stuff that he's dealt with from fans, from the media. I think for him at this point, like it's almost he's expecting it, and he probably knew he's like, as soon as I do this, this is what's gonna come out of it.
I mean, but I think Lewis now knows that Fred, and I think he felt that before. He's been with
Hmm.
Fred when he was in GP2, so he knows Fred.
Yeah.
That Fred truly, truly has his back. And again, that's why I said I was taking a pause from Mercedes for the time being, because when this was happening to Lewis when he was on Mercedes, team didn't really have his back.
Mm-mm.
Again, that's not conjecture. That's not an opinion. That's just like a fact. Okay. But all that aside, it is wild to me because again, new Ferrari fan. So all you Banes out there, just like relax. I'm looking at the 2025 constructors standings. McLaren at the top makes sense. Mercedes, yeah, with George Russell farming those P3s also makes sense. Max Verstappen willing Red Bull to do this, awesome. But then you have freaking Williams and Ferrari tied at 17 points.
Mm.
17 points. Wasn't this team supposed to be like you know what that feels like? You know, like in football and basketball when they do like these off-season free agent signings, they're like, oh shoot, they're building a super team.
Yep.
They're about to run the tables, and then that team is whack.
And like that's the
It's
thing about F1, like you can have the best drivers, but if you literally mess up strategy in the car, your drivers are screwed.
hey, if I'm Fred Vasseur, I'm on the phone with Hannah Schmidt over at Red Bull. Hannah, what do we got to do? All right, we'll build you a villa here. You like pasta? We'll get you your own pasta chef. He'll make you food at 2 a.m., 1 a.m. You could
Like
throw it out. He'll make you a new batch from scratch. I'm on the phone with anybody who's a better strategist. Do you want a
absolutely
shot at strategy with Ferrari and Charles Leclerc and Lewis Hamilton? Because whatever this is not it.
so bad.
Terrible. Again, Tifosi, I'm not talking to you. I recognize you're used to this. All right. Just bear with me. Okay. Again, all you Banes, just chill out. All right. Just leave me alone. I'm just adjusting to it. I didn't have to follow Ferrari as much as I do now. And my heart goes out to you for having to deal with this. All right. Truly, 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 truly. But don't you worry. I'm sure once Lewis retires, you'll go back to just being Tifosi without all of these extra fans. I'm still going to cheer for Charles Leclerc, but that's here. So yeah, just a terrible strategy, and as you have alluded to, double DSQ. From the highest of highs to the lowest of
Only
lows.
they could do it like that. Only they
Just
can.
I love it.
They said it
Oh,
couldn't. They said it couldn't be done, but we did it. Ferrari's like we did
Forza,
it.
we did andiamo. And so yeah, but again, like my takeaway, I know that they're learning. My takeaway from this is that Lewis is learning about his team, the radio conversation between him and I can't believe I didn't. When you were watching did you watch qualifying for the sprint at
I,
all?
I didn't at all.
So go back when you don't have to watch the whole thing. When Lewis gets P1, his race engineer Ricardo,
This
hey, did we get it? Yes, San Diego,
Diego,
baby.
I heard that San Diego, and then people were just like,
Uh, and then, but they couldn't decide if it was San Diego or Santiago. I was like, it's not Santiago.
"It's San
He's
Diego."
Italian. I know he can say that T. That's San Diego, baby. And then like they're both laughing like two old uncles on the like
I was
Lewis
just
is giggling. He's like, and he's making
that
Donnie
laugh.
laugh too. I was like, what is
Oh
happening
my
with these guys?
gosh,
So yeah. Anyways, so Ferrari's got to get their act together. The season is still early. That's what I got to remind myself. But at the rate they are going, they've got about 2 or 3 races of this foolishness before it's like y'all are never catching. You're not catching anybody. You're going to finish at 3 and somehow do worse with a statistically better lineup on paper. Somehow finish worse. Honorable mention. I did mention them. Williams. Quickly, Alex Albon
man.
is doing better than Carlos Sainz. Surprised? Because I was one of those who thought Carlos Sainz was gonna
Here's
dunk on him.
here's been interesting. So I've been down a rabbit hole with that, and what I've been reading is, and which sometimes it makes sense. Basically, what you would tell me about what Lewis was doing with his setup last year, and how they had him setting up his car is that Williams had a great car during preseason,
Mm.
and that's the car that they let Albon use while they're having Signs do more of like the experimental setups.
Sure.
Which for me, I can see that. But like Albon, though, I think like because Williams is a guy. Sorry, not Williams. Albon is a guy with this team. Williams, I think Williams is kind of just like trying to get back to relevancy, and
Hmm.
like Albon, he seems like if there's one guy who's like, I'm gonna do it because I remember like when Colapinto went on, the people was like, oh Albon, you had a good run, but let's forget about. I remember you told me also too. You told me though, you're like not so fast, brother. Albon
It's
got
like,
the contract. You were like
hey,
Albon got the contract. Just remember that.
yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
and he's been so honestly, he's just been consistent. Like that's the
So,
thing.
so what I will wait. Sorry, were you gonna say one more thing?
No, no, you go ahead.
So what I'll say about Albon is this, and it kind of changed my perspective. I
Hmm.
think that perhaps Albon has always been really good, but we have not taken him as someone who is really good based on who he's been matched up against, right?
Mm,
So
gotcha.
he was teammates with Logan Sargent for basically like 1.5 years. Logan
Hmm.
Sargent is no longer in any racing series, mostly because he doesn't want to be in it, right? Too much pressure. Prior to Logan Sargent, I think he was teammates briefly with Nicholas Latifi,
Mm.
right?
Ooh.
Also, like not good, or maybe not. No, he was never teammates with. No, he was never teammates with Nicholas Latifi. He's basically just had. Uh, yeah, he's basically just had Logan Sargent, right? And then Colapinto after him, which he still was able to do better than Colapinto, right?
Hmm.
And so perhaps that kind of made a lot of people, myself primarily included, feel like, okay, Albon actually isn't that good because anybody he's going up against is actually really terrible. So it's
Hmm.
easy to look good when your competition is terrible. And people slept on him. Again, I'm mostly talking about myself right now. So maybe Albon, I mean, at one point, obviously, he was a Red Bull driver, right?
Yeah.
And so Sainz coming in, he's still getting used to race engineering, still getting used to the car. Um, I guess we'll see halfway through the season if Sainz is fully acclimated to the team, and then maybe we can start the conversation. But for now, it's not like Sainz. I mean, Sainz was putting up great times during preseason testing, and he got his first point yesterday because of a DSQ of the two Ferraris and Pierre Gasly, right? So he got it. He
Man.
got his first points with Williams the same way Logan Sargent got his points with Williams through a disqualification. So do with that
Yep.
what you will. But yeah, we'll see. All right. Trying to wrap up here real quick. We've got a lot of rookies this season. So quickly, who is your favorite rookie so far and why?
Probably just Hajar, Isaac Hajar, man. He's been
Yes.
un- like obviously we know. I mean, we know what happened the first
Yes.
race.
Yeah. Can't
Absolutely.
cry like that. Sure.
But he's a guy like watching him just like qualifying, race. I'm just like I remember he's a rookie, and like we
Mm-hmm.
talk about we know like Antonelli what he's doing, which I think like a lot
Mm-hmm.
of people kind of saw like this guy might be a one on one, like Antonelli might be a one on one to come in and do that
Sure.
because I mean you can probably tell me you could tell me more about this than I could think of about rookies who came in and just like wow doing things. I mean obviously like the infamous one you brought up to me was Hamilton's rookie year, how
Yeah, that
he
was crazy.
barely lost out on the
Yeah.
championship and
Yeah.
that but
Yeah. By a point. Yeah.
by 1 point. But like I think I like Hydra because he's a guy who I'm just like, you know what? He's a guy who I can see like as the season goes on. I think for him it's just going to be confidence. Like, do you see the skills there in certain
Mm-hmm.
drives? And I think for him right now it's just confidence. Which like obviously F1 it's hard to come in and be like, oh I'm a project in F1. Like by the time you get to F1, they
Sure.
want you to be ready because
Yes.
it's like you mentioned it. You told me it's cutthroat, but he's my guy right now that I've been enjoying. Like, but right now like pure skill though, Antonelli right now is just like
Yes.
wow, like this guy is just shot out of a cannon, literally.
I so the same. I'm watching. I'm really loving what I'm seeing out of Antonelli. That's why I'm still following Mercedes.
Hmm.
I'm really loving what I'm seeing out of Isaac Hadjar. I think the kid's quick. He's really adaptable. Yes, it was unfortunate what happened in the first race. I don't think he wanted to cry. And I'm
Hmm.
not a person who cries, but I don't think that Isaac Hadjar was crying because he was sad. I think he was so angry and frustrated and
Yeah,
embarrassed. Like
absolutely.
I don't think he wanted to cry, right? Antonelli, right? We saw some great moves in Australia, which were awesome. That kid
Hmm.
is good in the wet. He's been consistent. I don't know why he won driver of the day for that Chinese GP. So I I didn't realize Antonelli had the streets like that. Okay, like because I don't know. He's got shooters because who was voting for Antonelli? Like what did he do that race? He started P8, he finished P8. After the DSQ, he got promoted to P6.
Hmm.
I will say honorable mention to me is Ollie Behrman.
Oh yeah,
Yesterday during that race, he was like, "Ciao, ciao." He said that twice when he was like
yeah.
passing somebody on the trail. I was like,
Oh, like
"This kid's
okay,
a clown.
Ollie.
What are you doing,
Okay,
Ollie? Get out of here."
like he's the guy.
Uh,
He's the guy for me who should have won, who had a good chance of winning driver of the day.
I, that's who I that's who I voted for.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyways, okay. And so finally, as I do with all the guests that come on my shows for the Chinese Grand Prix, who was your Pariguayo and who was your Matatan?
Man, I would say my Bariguayo has to be the Ferrari team. Not the I don't put it on the drivers.
No.
I'm putting it on the team, strategy, engineers, that. Like the thing is, I'm not even upset with Fred right now because Fred,
No.
I'm like I trust him. It's just like you said, they might have to have a moment where they're
Yes.
just like, what do you need? Here's a blank check and reach
Yes.
out to whoever they need to.
Yes.
Like so, that's my Bariguayo. My Matatan is Oscar Piastri, man. Like that's right now. Like from
Got that
him
P1.
getting pole and then getting the P1, and even like you can even go back. Like he had like for me like the best weekend out of everyone.
Mm.
The sprint, he got second place in the sprint. Like I mean, you couldn't ask for like a. The only way it could have been better if he would have won the sprint and won the GP, but he
Yeah.
got second in the sprint and first in the GP. I think for him, like he is my Matatham. What do you got though going for you?
So I'm giving my Pariguayo to Formula One media, right, for the unnecessary
Mm,
drama that they caused trying to paint Lewis in this light. On the flip side, I'm glad that Lewis is on a team that allows him to stick up for and defend them and defend himself as well
hmm.
as like stick up for him as well. Like it should come to no surprise. Fred was saying it even since last year. What Lewis needs is an environment where he is nurtured and feeling
Yeah.
loved. But whatever. Pariguayo is Formula One media for it's like the race itself should have been exciting enough for you to
Hmm.
not do like this drama, which is also why I'm listening to like team radios myself or I'm watching multi-viewer to get like all of that, right? And actually my Matathan for the race is gonna be George Russell.
Fair enough.
George Russell.
Fair
George
enough.
Russell for the second week in a row gets a sneaky P3
And
podium.
I'm telling you,
Hey, things that go hand in hand together. You are absolutely right. I didn't even notice.
he's
You're
there. I'm
you're
telling
going to
you,
have to pry that P3 from his cold,
if he
dead
is there,
British hands.
he won't lose it, but and he's not gonna let you pass.
No,
You're not
no, he is
you're
not.
you're not getting past him. That's why I'm just like, that's the
Hey,
thing.
man. Look, dog. Give credit where credit is due. Was it
Yeah,
exciting? Was he doing overtakes? No. Who
mm-mm.
cares? He got P3. He's just hanging around. All right. Y'all two decide to crash. Guess who's there to pick up the
Yeah.
pieces?
Where was it
It's
last
me.
year? Which race was it last year? When
Literally Austria.
when
Yeah.
Max and Lando
Yeah.
crashed, and he was just like, all right, I'll take it.
Thanks, y'all. And so I was just kind of like, okay. So I got to give credit where credit is due. I'm not George Russell apologist, but let's face it, he got the sneaky P3 again. Shouts out, reluctant Matatan to George Russell, but I can't be a full blown hater on that. Yeah, man. So that is it. Any parting words you want to leave with the audience?
Nah, I've said all my words of wisdom. Sometimes you got to
Damn it.
tap out when you're done. You got to tap out.
Oh,
And I don't want to tap out.
hey, you gotta know when to tap out when you're done. And with that, I would like to remind yourself if you have made it to the end of this podcast, please, please, please don't forget to comment, like, subscribe, and share. Tell your tios, your tias, your mamis, your papis, abuelos, abuelas. That's basically your whole family. I just taught you a bunch of Spanish words. Tell everybody you know about this podcast. For the Monoplaza F1 podcast, that was Elkyn. I am Emi Vertre. Peace.